Okay.
And efferent nerves carry the signals from CNS to the effector organs.
Effector organs. Very good. Okay. So remember, whenever you are drawing the diagram, what you have to do, how you have to show the efferent facing which side, you have to put the arrow. Did I tell you all this thing? Okay. Now tell me the difference between the autonomous and the, which is the other one? Anyone? Can you tell me what are the two types of the nervous system we have classified?
Central nervous system and peripheral nervous system.
Peripheral. Okay. And then how we have classified the peripheral?
Peripheral nervous system is classified into somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system.
Autonomic. Okay. Now, what is the meaning of the somatic and autonomic?
Somatic means voluntary and autonomic means involuntary.
Involuntary. Correct. Okay. Now, I'll do the presentation and I'm just presenting the screen. So, I'll put the date in your notebook and we'll start with the next topic. Can you see my screen, children? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
You can see my screen? Okay. So now we'll start with the next topic. Sorry. You all have noted what is the difference between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, children?
Ma'am, your
Yes,
voice is
ma'am.
not clear.
What is the difference between sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system? Anyone? You all have noted what I discussed in the previous period? Not audible?
Ma'am, sympathetic, sympathetic,
Yes. Just Devansh?
ma'am, sympathetic nervous system causes erection of hair, where the parasympathetic nervous system makes hair slanting. Uh, Ma'am, sympathetic nervous system stimulates the precipitation. Preci,
Anyone else? Anyone else can say? Achha, you all have read the textbook or not? Barbie? Barbie? Are you all there? Neha?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
okay. You can hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
So What is the basic difference between the sympathetic and parasympathetic? Neha, can you tell me?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Ma'am, the in sympathetic nervous system, the overall effect on the organ is stimulatory, but in parasympathetic, it is
Inhibitory.
inhibitory.
Correct. Okay. So this difference should be known to everyone, that parasympathetic and sympathetic, how they are differing. Sympathetic will have the, yes Neha, again, sympathetic will have
Stimulatory
stimulatory
effect.
cells.
It will
Uh-huh.
stimulate the
Okay,
things.
so these are the nerves which are supplying.
And parasympathetic,
So these nerves, sympathetic nerves are arising from where?
thoracic
Thoracic
region.
region. Okay. You have noted properly or not? And
Yes,
peripheral
ma'am.
arising from where?
Ma'am, from the cranial area in our brain.
From the cranial area. Check it once again. Acha, other children, tell me you have noted or not? Should we
Yes,
see the
ma'am.
slide? Should we see the slides once again, or it's clear to everyone? Or I should start with the neuron and transmission only. If anyone wants the revision, so tell me. Otherwise, I'll start with this topic. Quick. Because that's not given in the textbook, children. Okay, you all must have read it in the book. The sympathetic and parasympathetic is not given there. Okay, so you'll have to note it only. So I'm starting quickly with the neurons. You all are not speaking up fast. You should respond. I'm starting with the neuron topic and the transmission of the nerve impulse. So neuron, what is the structure that you have to understand? And this you have been studying since 9th standard, so it will not take much time in understanding. The neurons or the nerve cells, they are the structural and functional unit of the whole nervous system, that is the brain, spinal cord, and the nerves. These neurons, they are the branched cells. So you can see the structure, it is having a very characteristic structure, and the nerve cell consists of the uh, different parts. Now, what are the different parts? Can anyone tell? Devratna, quickly tell me what are the different parts of the nerve cell?
Ma'am, dendron, axon, and cyton.
The first part, this one, cyton. Okay, so cyton. So this cell body is only known as the cyton. Then we get the next one, that is the
Axon.
branches arising from, we call it as the dendrons, and then the large cytoplasmic process which arises from the cell body, we call it as axon. So cyton, axon, and dendron. So now the cell body, now since it is called as the cell body, so inside it you can see the cytoplasm is there, and in the center we find the nucleus. The nucleus is surrounded by some granular structures, and those granules are called the missile granules. And from this cell body we find these short branches. Can you see in the figure, everyone? It's a revision for you all. Small branched projections are there. These are the cytoplasmic extensions or the cytoplasmic processes, we call it, and they are called dendrites. And one of the cytoplasmic process is very long, and this long fiber, and when we see the other end of it, it is having many branches, and they are terminating into this knob-like structure which is known as synaptic knob. Are you all remembering, everyone? Yes or no?
Yes,
Devansh?
ma'am.
Devansh is listening or not? saying fast, otherwise I think that you are absent from the class.
Yes, ma'am.
Devansh. Shravani.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, quickly describe the cell body.
Ma'am, cell body is divided into three parts.
Huh?
The cyton, axon, and the dendrites.
No, cell body is not divided. That is the neuron is divided. I'm talking about just the cell body. That is the cyton. Explain the cyton structure.
Your voice is fluctuating in between.
Cyton, you have to say it is the cell body or main part of the neuron, and it consists of the cytoplasm, which encloses in the center, the nucleus, and surrounding the nucleus, the granules are present, which are known as Missels granules. Okay, and from the cell body arises many short branches. That much you have to remember for the cell body. Now tell me what are dendrites. So can Shravani tell me what are dendrites? What are dendrites?
Ma'am, short.
Huh?
Ma'am, these are the short branch projection of the cell body.
Huh? And what do they do?
Ma'am, they transmit impulses into the cell body.
Huh. So now into the cell body, when it is said, remember that these dendrites receive the impulses from other nerve cells. What do they do? In 10th class, you have done very nicely. The dendrites receive the impulses from the other nerve cells. And now the axon. So axon is a long fiber. It is having terminally it is branched, and it is having these branches are having the knob-like structures, which you call it as synaptic node. Now the axon transmits the impulse away from the cell body. Cell body say लेके जाने का काम impulse का axon का है. Okay, okay, and this axon will give this impulse, the nerve impulse, to the next neuron. Now this axon is covered by the sheath or the flat Schwann cells, and the sheath we call it, when the sheath is present, we say myelinated nerve fiber. What we say? Myelinated nerve fiber. And some of the nerve cells do not have the myelin sheath, and we call them non-myelinated nerve fibers. So this way, two types of the nerve cells are there. One is the myelinated nerve cell and another one non-myelinated. We can say nerve cell or nerve fibers. And the gaps are there between this sheath, and these gaps are called what?
Node of
What are
Ranvier.
these gaps between? Nodes of Ranvier. That is known as nodes of Ranvier. So we completed with the structure of the nerve cell. Everyone will draw the diagram of the nerve cell in the notebook. Okay. Now what are the different types of the nerve cells? Remember, they are unipolar, bipolar, and multipolar. This classification has been done on the basis of the number of axons arising from the cell body. If the number of axons arising from the cell body, if the nerve cell, now see here in the previous one, we are seeing that only one axon is arising. In some of the nerve cells, we find one axon this side to another axon arising from the other side. So if two axons we find, so it will be called as bipolar. What it will be called? What it will be called?
Bipolar.
Cell body containing one axon, one dendrite. So one dendrite, so then bipolar. Okay, and the cell body containing one axon and many dendrites. So these neurons are present in the cerebral cortex. So that way, remember, today we'll be forming the synapse with many neighboring nerve cells. So they are present, the unipolar ones, they are present in the embryos of vertebrates and invertebrates. So these are the neighboring nerve cells. So So this is also not given in your textbook. Remember, this is the classification based on the number of exits. Number of exits present in the nerve cell. Clear? Dendrites have many children, but exit, remember, it is, which is classifying, which is dividing it into three different types. Noted in brief quickly, everyone. Unipolar, bipolar, and multipolar. Unipolar, bipolar, and multipolar neurons one exon. Write down in brief. Unipolar neurons have one exon. Bipolar neurons have two exons. And multipolar neurons have more than two exons. Clear to everyone? This figure is a bit confusing, okay? Okay, shall I take up the next slide now? Okay, generation and conduction of the nerve impulse. Now, how many students are remembering that how the nerve impulse conduction takes place from one nerve cell to the other? Synapse, you are remembering? Yes or no? Devratna, what is a synapse?
Ma'am,
Speak
it
up
is the
fast.
junction between two nerve cells.
It is the junction between the two nerve cells. So it is formed, this junction is formed between,
And the nerve,
specify it.
ma'am, the nerve endings of first neuron to the dendrites of the second neuron.
Correct. Okay. So this should be known to everyone. Try to revise it. That synapse is the junction between the nerve endings of one neuron and the dendrites of the other neuron. Okay. Now what happens at the synapse? Yes, Devratna?
Ma'am, the
What happens at
the transfer of the electrical
uh,
impulse.
it is the transfer of the impulse from one nerve cell to the other takes place at the synapse. Okay. In which form does it take place?
In the
From
form of
electrical.
chemicals.
In the chemical form. Okay. In the electrochemical form, we say. Okay. Okay. What is that chemical called?
Neurotransmitter.
Neurotransmitter. Fine. Okay. And the gap between the nerve cell, or that is the nerve ending of one, and the dendrites of another one, what is it called?
Synaptic cleft.
Anyone? Very good. Synaptic cleft. Okay. So through the synaptic cleft, the neurotransmitter will be, and neurotransmitters are present where? Where are the neurotransmitters present?
Ma'am, in the synaptic
In the synaptic.
cleft.
Think. You have done last year. Devanshi. Unmute your mic. देवांशी, ये काम जल्दी जल्दी किया करो, नहीं तो ऐसा लगता है आप छोड़ के चले गए क्लास.
Ma'am, she left the meeting.
She left the meeting. Okay. So then who will tell me? Barbie will tell me. The nerve endings are having the synaptic knob. Try to recollect. And that synaptic knob is having two things I told you all: mitochondria and synaptic
Synaptic
vesicles.
vesicles.
Synaptic vesicles When the impulse comes there, the synaptic vesicles reach the synaptic, that is the presynaptic membrane. Okay, and then they burst there. So that was all done. Now that is the impulse transmission which you have done across the synapse. Now today we are studying the new topic, that is the nerve impulse conduction along the nerve fiber. What you have to understand, the nerve impulse conduction along the nerve fiber, मतलब एक्सन के थ्रू वो एक पार्ट से दूसरे पार्ट में कैसे जाएगा, that we are discussing. Okay, last year you have studied that how the nerve impulse is conducted across the synapse, means from one nerve cell to the other nerve cell. Okay, now you see that in the previous one only. Now I'll take up the diagram. Try to see here. We find that these dendrites, can you see my cursor, children?
Yes, ma'am.
So these dendrites, they will be forming the synapse with the other nerve cells. Okay, and now the impulse will be received by these dendrites. The impulse will come to the cell body, and from the cell body, it has to travel this whole axon. It has to travel the
Axon.
एक्सॉन, along the length of the axon it has to travel, तब जाके वो यहाँ पर nerve endings पर पहुंच पाएगा. तो how this conduction will take place, that we have to understand. Okay, and I told you last year, थोड़ा याद करो, वो इलेक्ट्रिकल फॉर्म में जाता है. किस फॉर्म में जाता है? इलेक्ट्रिकल और इलेक्ट्रोकेमिकल. व्हाट डिड आई टेल यू ऑल? जल्दी बता दो. What is it? The nerve impulse conduction takes place in the electrochemical form. What do you say?
Electrochemical form.
Electrochemical form. Okay. Now try to see stepwise how it will be generated. So neurons are able to conduct nerve impulses because they are excitable cells. The property of excitability is because of the polarized membrane. So this everyone write down that they are excitable cells because of the presence of polarized membrane, and it is polarized due to the presence of selectively permeable ion channels in it. Everyone note down. This is a complicated process, children. Try to understand very nicely. And it's very, very important. For long questions, it will be asked for 5 marks. That how the nerve impulse conduction takes place along the nerve fiber. So everyone should know why it is getting transmitted, or why the nerve impulse conduction takes place along that in electrochemical form. Because they are excitable cells. Okay, the nerve cells, they are excitable cells, and this excitability property is due to the polarized membrane. Exit का जो membrane होता है, that is a polarized membrane. And why we say polarized membrane? Because of the presence of selectively permeable ion channels. Okay, so you know the plasma membrane is only there, and the plasma membrane is selectively permeable, and it is having the
Ma'am, your voice is not clear.
voice is not coming proper. Okay, cutting in the middle. Did you understand what I explained just now? You have noted? Misha noted this much?
Ma'am,
That
actually your
excitability is because of the polar.
sound
Yes?
sound
Yes, ma'am.
Someone is saying something.
Ma'am, actually sometimes your sound feels like it is being passed forward. So it's not
Acha, acha.
properly audible.
Okay, sometimes it goes and sometimes it's coming. Okay. So whatever I explained just now, is it clear to you or not? Yes or no?
Yes.
Ma'am,
Yes,
actually
ma'am.
it is good most of the times in my case. Your voice is not at all clear to me.
Oh, voice is not clear today.
Ma'am, it's sometimes
Acha,
fast
I'll
forward
write
like a train.
down. Oh, oh. Wait, I'll write it also, so then that will be better. Okay. Do you all have the book in front of you?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Children,
Yes, ma'am.
do you have the book in front of you? So try to open the figure which is showing the nerve impulse conduction across along the nerve fiber. Do you get the figure? Got it? I'm writing. Wait, you all note down also. Can you all hear me now? Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am, but your voice is not clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Voice is not clear. Okay. Nerve impulse conduction along the nerve fiber. What we are doing? Along the nerve fiber. Now it involves three steps. It involves three steps. Now what are those steps? So step number one, resting potential. Resting potential. Now try to understand this thing, note down also. The second one is the depolarization. Depolarization. And the third step is repolarization. Can you hear me now, Neha?
Yes,
Neha,
ma'am.
audible or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is it clear or again cutting?
Ma'am,
Voice
now
is
it's
cutting
clear.
still?
No, ma'am, it's clear now.
Now it's okay. So now try to understand quickly. It is 53 already. So we'll have to take up now little bit I am giving you an idea. Then you try to read this topic in the textbook. Okay, now what you have to understand that how the nerve fibers, you know that nerve fibers are very long. Okay, they are the axons are very long and they are then the nerve impulse has to travel through that whole fiber, then it will reach the nerve ending, and nerve ending when it will reach there the synaptic node is there, and it will be transferred to the next neuron. But how it will be transferred along that nerve fiber? So it involves the three steps. Number one, we say that state as the resting potential, then the nerve fiber will get depolarized, and after that the repolarized. Now Why does it happen? Because the cells are the excitable cells. Okay, and what you mean to say by excitable cells means the membrane of the nerve fiber, it is polarized, and polarized means they will have the ion channels. Now what will happen in the resting potential means when the nerve impulse is not there, in that state we say that it is in the resting potential. Okay, and in that resting potential state, you will find that it will maintain a potential difference across its membrane. And this potential difference is minus 70 MV. Now, how it will be maintained? So in this, remember, more permeability, the membrane will be more permeable to potassium and impermeable to sodium ions. Okay, so in this figure you can see the positive it is showing outside and negative it is showing inside. Could you see there in the figure? So this is the membrane of the nerve fiber, the plus sign outside and negative sign inside. So this plus sign is what? For, can you see here it is showing the sodium ions and the potassium ions. So more permeable to
Ma'am, figure
potassium.
is not clear.
Figure is not clear. I'll show you the next other figure, then only it will be better. Okay, so how many steps are there? Did you understand? How many steps? I'll take up next period. Say soon, how many steps in the nerve impulse conduction?
3 steps.
3.
Three steps. Number one.
Resting potential,
Then next will be
depolarization, and then repolarization.
then repolarization. Resting potential time, only remember that the cell membrane will be more permeable to potassium and impermeable to sodium. So there will be high concentration of potassium where inside the nerve cell and low concentration of sodium. And outside what will be more? The sodium will be more outside and potassium will be, did you get it what I said? Inside the membrane, what will be more? Potassium. And outside the membrane, the sodium will be there. And that sodium potassium pump will continue resting potential में ऐसा ही होगा कि सोडियम कहाँ पर ज़्यादा होंगे? Would you understand? Outside the sodium will be more and inside the potassium will be more. बस इतना याद रखना है. In the resting potential, just इतना लिख लो. What is more?
Sodium.
Inside potassium more. Okay, and then outside, what is more outside? Sodium. Is it clear? So outside the cell there will be higher concentration of sodium and inside the nerve cell, that is the nerve fiber, there will be potassium more. Okay, so now rest I will discuss. जब impulse आ जाएगा तो ये polarity बदल जाएगी. Okay, so how it will change I'll take up next time. So I'm stopping the sharing. So we'll do Shanti part, children.